Money. It affects our everyday life. But how do we make more of it? Manage it. And make sure we make the most of our money. Welcome to Money Mindful, a podcast to teach and support you as you learn to manage your money.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of the Money Mindful podcast. I am your host, Meaghan. I am a money mindset and empowerment coach for women. I help women create the life they want to live on purpose. And that's what I really want to talk to you about today. I was in the shower this morning and I just couldn't stop thinking about this topic of how committed are you to the life that you want to live? It just kept repeating over and over in my head to the point where I said, Louie, you've got to take the kids out for a walk because I have to record this podcast. I can't stop thinking about it. And it was kind of triggered because I listened to a podcast about a different topic, but they did an analogy about doctors. And I wanted to tell you a little bit of a story because it really got me thinking about my own life and my own journey that's got me to where I am today, and also like looking forward to the future, to where I want to go in the future. And one of the things that occurred to me was how committed I am and my partner is to the life we want to live. And this didn't happen overnight. And also the life that we want to live is not happening overnight. It's a process. But I wonder, do you think about how committed you are to the life that you want to live? And if you are committing to the life that you want to live, and here's what I mean by this. So my partner is a doctor, okay? And when we first met, he was working in a bar and that was all he was doing, like we had a very sort of boozy social life, like in our 20s, just kind of no cares or major responsibilities, just having a good time. But along the way, both of us had different dreams that we wanted to follow, and so we started following them. And one of the things that my partner decided to do was that he wanted to become a doctor and he wanted to study medicine. And he was already older. We were both already older. It wasn't like straight out of school. And he was studying biomed at the time, and he applied to get into medicine and he got in. But he got in Tasmania. Now, at the time, we were living in Victoria, and I too was working towards a major goal. I had been doing a business course and I had got a little bit of a grant to get a business started, and I had just got a space in a studio because at the time I was working as a photographer, and I didn't feel like moving to Tasmania with my partner was an option. But, he was really committed to studying medicine and I was really committed to creating my photography business, and we were both also really committed to each other. And at the time, it felt really hard. Like that first year that he moved to Tasmania was not the most wonderful years of my life. Like living apart from your partner, especially when, we had been living together, was really tough. I'm not going to lie. There were many days and times when it just wasn't fun at all. And we spent a lot of money on flying back and forth to Tasmania and double rents and all of that jazz. But what I want to say is that, he was committed. He was so committed to becoming a doctor that he was prepared to live apart from his partner for 6 years to achieve that. So I've never really spoken about our relationship before on the podcast because it's not really relevant, I guess, until now. But I think this is like a really good analogy and story to tell to give you an idea about, how committed are you to what you want to achieve, like whatever it is. And so, I want to tell you a little bit more about this. So he was in Tasmania studying, and I knew at the time that I wasn't going to move down there. And I also had other dreams that I wanted to follow about going overseas. And I just thought, I'm not going to wait 6 years until he graduates to be able to go overseas. So again, we just fully committed to our life and fully committed to each other. And I moved overseas. Like I moved to London while he was working, studying in Tasmania, because my father is from the UK and I had always wanted to go to the UK and experience what life was like over there and see where he grew up. And I just thought, I can't wait 6 years until my partner has finished, so I'm going to do this. So we continued our relationship while I lived in London and he lived in Tasmania. And again, there were some, many tough times, but we were both carving out the lives that we wanted. And for me to go to Tasmania and just be with him wasn't the life I wanted to live. And for him to put his medical career on hold and come to London with me was not the life that he wanted to live. But we were both really committed to doing what we wanted to do, but also we were equally committed to being in a partnership. So we made it work. And I guess I want to tell you about this because often I kind of hear people talking about things and just talking about it in a way that it's not possible. Like the thing that you want, the thing that you want to achieve in your life is just out of your reach. But that's actually bullshit. Like it's just because of the way that you're thinking about it. And I don't mean this in a, you're doing it wrong way. I'm not trying to shame you or make you wrong or anything like that. But I think that we place limitations on ourselves. So I've been looking at a book recently, and it's all to do with property. And one of the things that I commonly hear, and have even said so myself, is that it's so hard to break into the property market. Like properties are so expensive these days, and it's just near impossible for millennials to buy property. And again, like that is actually bullshit. Like, yes, it is difficult, but I'll ask you this question again, like how committed are you to the life that you want to live? Like if you want to own your own home, or you want to buy an investment property, or you want to set yourself up for the future, like how committed are you to that? Are you prepared to live apart from your partner for 6 years? Like I'm not suggesting that you do that. By the way, guys, I've got to say being in a long distance relationship is shite. Like there's so much about it that is not good and is incredibly painful, being away from the person that you love. But at the same time, Louie and I have been back together for years now. Like this was a long time ago, and we have such an amazing relationship, because we have that experience in our back pocket now, and kind of looking back now, it seems sort of easier than it was. It was very difficult at the time, but it's like, yeah, we totally lived apart for 6 years and we're still together. And because we've done that, in terms of our relationship, it's like, oh my gosh, we can do anything. There's nothing that we can't do. And, just in terms of how I was talking about a property, like if you want to buy a property, you can buy a property. Now, you might not be able to do it next week. You might not be able to do it next year. It might actually take you 5 years to do it, let's say. Like, I don't know. I don't know your financial circumstances. But if you want this, are you committed to doing it or not? You know, like I'm working with this client at the moment on weight loss, and she wants to lose a certain amount of weight, and it's not something that she can achieve in a couple of weeks. And one of the questions I asked her is like, if this takes you 5 years to do, will you still do it? Like, are you still all in? And she said yes. You know, like she is committed to living the life that she wants to live. She's committed to losing this weight, like even if it takes 5 years. And anything really is possible. And I want to give you a few more examples. Now, it's funny, I didn't kind of expect it to go down the relationship route, but I can think of another example, like someone in my life who's close to me. They live in Australia, but they have a relationship with a person who is in New Zealand. They've been together for a few years, and her partner lives in New Zealand and she lives in Australia. And you know what they do? Every kind of 3 months or so, she flies over there and she lives over there with him for a few months, and then she flies back. She lives in Australia for a few months, and she has a job that's a casual job. So she just works in Australia when she comes back. And, you know, for so many people, they would just say no to having a relationship with somebody because they live in another country, you know, for many reasons. And I'm not suggesting that that's wrong. Like maybe you don't want to be in a relationship with somebody who's not with you all the time, but these two people do want to be in a relationship. They live in two different countries and they're committed to making it work. You know, it's like, how committed are you to the life that you want to live? I'll continue the example with my partner becoming a doctor and, you know, all these kind of things. Like, you know, he earns a decent wage now, and I know that some people might, you know, think of people who earn a certain wage as, you know, like sometimes we can judge people, have judgments for people who are high income or rich people, so to speak. But just have a think for a moment how these people got to where they were. You know, because this is why I'm sharing this with you, because I want to tell you that I think it was like around $80,000 it cost my partner to do his degrees in the end, to get his qualifications. And, you know, we're still paying that off now. We lived apart for 6 years so he could do that. And then also we've moved to different places around Victoria. And then if you've been following me on the podcast, you know that at the start of the year we moved up to New South Wales, and that was because of my partner. He wanted to do advanced training in the medical profession, and in the area that he works, basically there's only about 40 positions each year to be able to get into in his field. And if you want to get into one of those training positions and you get interstate, you take that position. And, you know, like we're in a partnership, so I fully support what he does. He fully supports what I do. And so we're committed. We're committed to him being able to get that qualification. So we moved our whole family here to New South Wales, you know, away from all our family and friends. We don't have, well, I mean, we're just making new friends here in New South Wales. But that's what we're committed to doing, to creating the life that we want to live. I'm now building a business, as you know, because I talk about being a life coach on this podcast. And when I started this podcast, I was not a life coach. I was working as a primary school teacher. I'm committed to that. And, you know, now I don't cook dinners anymore. Like my partner cooks the dinners to support me because I have coaching calls in the evenings and I have trainings to do. And sometimes I'm, you know, in a Zoom meeting at 8:00 at night, and I might have been looking after the kids when they get home. So now how we work that is my partner does the cooking and he handles that side of things. And it's all these things that you do to create the life that you want. And I'm certainly not suggesting that you have to bust your balls and live a life that's, really uncomfortable and that you don't enjoy. But I'm also saying that maybe you need to do some things that feel uncomfortable to achieve the goals that you want. So financially speaking, health-wise, relationship-wise, whatever it is in your life. Now, in the financial realm, a lot of people aspire to have their own property and or to buy an investment property. This isn't as common, but if you're in Australia, where a majority of my listeners are, it's the Australian dream to own property. And I see so many people kind of wiping it off as if it's something that they can't achieve. And yes, it might not be something you can achieve in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years' time, but maybe it's something you can achieve in 10 years. But are you committed to doing that? And I just think this question, like how committed are you to the life you want to live, is so powerful for you to contemplate. One, in terms of actually committing to what you want in your life and not discounting it as something that you can't achieve just because it's going to take you longer than you think. And two, to question yourself and question what you're doing. Like, am I actually committing to what I want to do? Because a lot of us, I think, we kind of dabble in things. We have an idea that we want to do, but when it gets hard, we let it go, or we think it's something that we can't do. Like, I have some friends who have just totally wiped being able to own a home. Like, they've just said, no, I can't do it. Like, it's just financially not possible. And it's only financially not possible because they're choosing not to work towards it. Now, I'm not suggesting that everybody should own a home and it's the most important thing. But if you want something in your life, the only person stopping you from getting it is actually you. As you know, I have investment properties. I did not know how to buy investment properties before I started investing in property. But I knew it was something that I wanted to do. I was committed to doing it. It took me years to save for my first property. Years, I'm telling you. And I won't go into it now because I've already talked about it on other podcasts, but I drove a crappy car. I used to buy all my clothes from the op shop. I wanted a house. I wanted a house so badly that I was prepared to do those things. But I wasn't like I was miserable. Like, those things were possible to do, but I just didn't let go of the goal. I had my eye on the pie, and there were plenty of times, like I remember I used to get home from work, like nearly every night, I kid you not, I would look at realestate.com. And it was kind of depressing because I just would think, oh my gosh, I'm so far off being able to buy a place. And with the salary that I was making, and this was all happening when my partner was living in Tasmania, and the bulk of a lot of my money was going on flights back and forth to Tasmania. But any other money was being put aside for a home deposit. And I just kept putting that money aside. And it took a very long time. It took a lot of disappointment, a lot of looking at houses, a lot of insecurity, like when we went and bought our first house, sort of knowing what to do and dealing with the agent. The agent was sort of like this real misogynist guy who was I can't even tell you how disrespectful he was to me. And we almost didn't buy the first house because of the way that he treated me. But I just thought, you know what? Like, I'm not going to let this get in the way of me buying our first home. I'm not going to let some guy who's rude and just so demeaning. Like, at one point I said, if you were speaking to my partner, would you speak to him in this way? And yeah, I just didn't let that get in the way because I wanted to buy a house. And so again, I just want to ask you, like, how committed are you to the life that you want to live? And all these things that I've spoken about today on the podcast, so many of them in the moment felt really difficult, like felt challenging at the time. But when I look back on the things that we've done, I think, it actually just wasn't as hard as I thought at the time, because you kind of expand your comfort zone and your ability to do things. And the first house we bought as a place that we lived in at first. But in the back of my mind, I kind of always knew we probably wouldn't stay living there. So we did buy it with the view that it would potentially become an investment property. And the second place that we bought, which I knew was going to be an investment property, I didn't know all the ins and outs of what it takes to buy an investment property. So I went and did a course. Like, I went and studied it. I went and I followed other people who are investors. There's an incredible podcast called The Smart Property Investor, I think it's called. I'm just thinking of it off the top of my head, but I'll put it in the show notes, and please forgive me if that's not the correct name. But this is a show where there's lots of property investors come on and they talk about what they've done and they talk about their journey. And I used to listen to that nearly every day. And I would listen to what other property investors were doing, and it completely normalized it for me. Being a property investor became something that just was so normal because I was just listening to people investing in property every day. And so then when I went and invested in property, it became something that I felt was achievable. Now, it was still scary and it was still definitely stepping out of my comfort zone, going through that whole process of drawing down equity from one of our properties, investing in another property, going into larger amounts of debt, paying a buyer's agent to actually go and find a property for us because the property that we have is in another state to where we were living because we wanted something that was within our budget. So all of those things took commitment. You don't pay a buyer's agent a lot of money to go and buy a property for you unless you're serious. And there was a point in time where I thought, what would I do if I was a professional property investor? How would I behave in this moment? And I thought, if I had already reached my goal, because I had a goal about how many properties I wanted, would I just pay somebody to go and find the property for me, like a professional in that area? Or would I be trying to scrimp and save every dollar and figure it out? And I thought, no, if as a professional property investor, I would pay somebody to go and do it. So that's what we did. But it takes courage to commit to doing those things and go all in. So I want to encourage you, whatever goal it is that you're following or whatever goal it is that you're trying to achieve, it takes commitment. And I like to think of my life as a commitment. There's things that I want to achieve in my life, and I can see them as individual goals, but I also feel like I see my life as a commitment in the sense of how I want to live. And there's dreams and goals that I'm going after that I've only just started now, and they're long-term goals that are going to take me, potentially 10 plus years to achieve. But so what? Right? Like, so what? Like, what is the life that you want to live? And I think I kind of want to just quickly end this on saying that, as you know, I was working as a teacher, and I really love being in a job where I'm serving other people and helping other people because it's so unbelievably satisfying. But I realized that being a teacher was not going to produce the life that I wanted to live moving forward. Because I think about how I want to live and I think about the things that I want to do. And I want to be able to pick my daughter up some days from school, and I want to be able to look after, my younger daughter before she's at school. And I realized that being a teacher wasn't working for me to be able to do those kind of things and also live the life that we wanted to live with our family. And I'm not going to go into every single detail with you. And so I have changed my career in my 40s to follow something that I'm really passionate about, but also design my life in a way that is creating a life that I want to live. Now, have I completely got all the ducks in a line and living the result of that? Not yet. I'm still working towards it and working on a lot of things that I want to create in my life. And am I going to get it all in the next year or so? Definitely not. It's going to take me a long time to achieve some of these goals that I have. But what I will say to you is that as far as I know, I only have this one life, and I want to spend it living the way that I want to live. And I don't have all the answers. I don't know how to achieve all the goals that I have, but how to do things is Googleable. I can just look stuff up. The important point is that I have commitment to the life that I want to live, and I'm going ahead and I'm working out how to do it. And I'm creating the mindset how to do it and learning the things that I need to do to create that. So I hope that's helped you today. And if you would like help working on the life that you want to live on purpose, like actually building the mindset that you need and the mindset that you need to become the person who's living that life that you want to create, you can contact me anywhere that you are following me. So you can email me at Meaghan, MEAGHAN, at moneymindful.com.au. You can DM me on Instagram. You can message me on Facebook, and we can do a consult, and that's where I get to do a little bit of coaching with you. Like, you get to experience coaching. You can tell me about yourself and the life that you want to create and the changes that you want to make. And then I let you know whether we're a good fit and if I can help you, if the coaching that I do can help you achieve that. All right, my friends, until next time, have a beautiful week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Money Mindful podcast. For more info, visit moneymindful.com.au. For future episodes, be sure to subscribe. And remember, the information in this podcast is of a general nature only and does not take into account your personal circumstances or goals. Please seek professional advice for your own financial needs. Remember to have fun along the way.